Hello, 1DK team. My name is Duck Yim. I'm currently a Air Force captain, and I fly the A-10. But I commissioned from Det 645 back in 2015. And when I was there at Ohio State, some friends and we originally founded One Day for the KIA all the way back in 2013. I hear the race is coming up this weekend, and before you headed into the big weekend, I just wanted to pass off a couple stories that really bring, hopefully, meaning to what you're doing and the culmination of all the efforts that you've really brought into it. But this past fall, last year, we were scheduled to deploy. My unit was scheduled to deploy to the Middle East, and we knew that we were going. And about a week after we departed Davis Monthan Air Force Base to head on over there, Hamas attacked Israel. And we were still on our way to get to the Middle East because it takes some time to get there. And it felt like the world had changed for us, and we didn't know what we were heading into. There were lots of questions. We knew or we anticipated that things would be pretty active and kinetic, but we had no idea what to expect. So for a deployment that was originally supposed to be pretty calm, pretty routine, something that we had felt that we had a good idea of what we were going into, all of a sudden we had kind of no idea, but we did think that it was going to get a lot busier. There was one mission downrange where my wingman and we got airborne at night. The weather was pretty bad. There was lightning storms going on all around. And there was lots of broken and overcast layers throughout the area that we were working. And the first thing that we did after we got airborne, before we headed into the airspace that we were assigned to work, was to go get some gas. So we were going to go meet a KC-135. But the weather was so bad that even finding the KC-135 itself took about 30 minutes. And then once we got rejoined with the KC-135, it was very hard to get on the boom. I anticipate that a lot of the team right now probably wants to go or already has a pilot slot. So I'm just kind of sharing this to maybe be a little bit more, I don't know, some insight into the future. But we were rejoining with the tanker, and at night that is a bit of a hairy deal. Your depth perception is lost looking through the MVGs, and it is already a little bit kind of puts you on edge. But so it took us a couple attempts to rejoin with the tanker, and then we kept falling off the boom. So we would connect to the boom for a couple seconds, and then because of the turbulence of that evening, we would fall immediately off it, and you have to work to get back on it. With the weather the way it was, I had fallen off the boom, I think 5 or 6 times, and I had called it quits. And I said, well, this is not working, and we should go back to our base. But the tanker crew said, hey, let's give it one last try. I think we figured out another solution that might bring us a little bit more success. And I said, okay. And so I attempted to rejoin with the boom one last time. And right before the boom was about to connect, I think literally about a foot or two away, we entered a cloud. And the cloud was so dense that I couldn't see the boom anymore, which is troubling because I don't know where the KC-135 is anymore. And so just per our normal standard procedures, I just started a descent 1,000 feet below where I knew the KC-135 was, and then went to level off. When I went to level off, things really started to go awry. And in the heads-up display, there's something that tells me my attitude, and I was moving the stick back and forth, and the attitude indicator would not change. It was just frozen, meaning that the aircraft was not responding. Transitioned to our kind of backup instruments. And that's when things got very concerning because my vertical velocity indicator said I was in a 4,000 foot per minute descent, while looking at my altimeter, it was saying that I was in a climb. Seeing that, my heart just fell, and I felt very scared because I was in a cloud. Looking outside, it looked like I was just in like a Star Wars Millennium Falcon accelerating scene where just the hail is going past my cockpit. I don't know which way is up. Just by looking outside, I can hear the hail clanging on the cockpit. My cockpit indications are disagreeing, and with a disparity like that of one gauge telling me that I'm climbing with the other saying I'm descending, I just don't really trust things at all. And so I do some very quick mathematical estimates. I know that I'm probably about 15,000 feet above the ground level. And at last glance, I think I was probably traveling around 5 miles per minute. And so, with being about 3 miles above the ground, 5 miles per minute, I just estimate that I probably have about 40 seconds until I impact the terrain. I still want to be inside the ejection envelope, and so I just gave myself a personal limit. I'm going to give this about 10 more seconds, and then I'm going to pull the ejection handle. It was at night, it was in the weather, and the thoughts that went through my mind from there was, okay, I'm going to look at my main ADI, my main attitude indicator. I hope this is not malfunctioning, and I just started pulling for the sky. After that, I thought, God, I hope I don't hit the KC-135 on the way up. And then it was, okay, if I don't break out, then I'm going to pull the ejection handles. It's going to be really cold outside. And then I thought, man, I hope any enemy personnel on the ground are not going to be able to find me, because they'll probably be quite upset. And I thought, man, the nearest Army base to here is about 30 miles away. And from running ultras like one day for the KIA, I know I can make it there. And so that was the plan. The last thought that I had in that span of about 10, 15 seconds was about my family. My parents, my significant other, my brother, and just imagining them sitting on a couch, safe and sound, having kind of no idea what was happening to me. But there was some comfort, because I knew that even though something might happen to me in the next couple seconds, that they will be well taken care of. I lived my life fostering as best as I could good relationships with them. I knew that everyone, very fortunately, would be set financially. I had done my will. I had given the things that I owned to the people that I wanted them to go to. And then lastly, that there were organizations like One Day for the KIA, or benefits available for military families of fallen military service members, that ensure that they'll be taken care of, even if something were to happen to me here in the next several seconds. Not too long after I started pulling, referencing the main ADI, I broke out of the cloud, and I saw the KC-135 now below me, and I thought, well, at least I didn't hit them on the way up. And I was in the night sky, and I knew which way was up, and I knew how to basically level the plane off. After that, I looked down at my cockpit, and basically there was a pitot-static system malfunction, which resulted in the erroneous indications that I was seeing. And then I talked to my wingman, and we were able to fly home and land safely back at base. The next day, I was just perusing through the Air Force Times on my phone, and there was an article about a CV-22 crash that had happened about a week or two ago, and I just saw the headline. I was like, that's pretty interesting. I wonder if they talk about the cause of the crash or whatever. And so I'm reading the article, and I make it to the end, and I couldn't believe it, because at the end, they were mentioning the names of the crew members on the CV-22, and one name was Captain Terry Brayman, who was a classmate of mine at Det 645 in Ohio State. And they were mentioning him as a deceased crew member. Terry and I were not go-to friends, but as you may probably know, after spending 3 to 4 days a week together in ROTC for 4 years straight, you get to know people pretty well. And even though I wouldn't describe him as a go-to friend, I feel like I had a good idea of who he was, and really had come to appreciate him as an individual. And so for me, the things that I remember about him is that Terry was a very bright guy, a very smart engineer. He was ever so slightly socially awkward. He loved beer, and he had a very, very big and warm heart. Terry was a year ahead of me, so there was that time frame where he was a POC member and I was a GMC member, and he would, yell at me and discipline me to train me to go to field training. And the thing that I remember about him is that with his such genuine and warm heart, it almost seemed like you could just feel like he was acting when he was yelling at you. And so I still remember running into the French field house, organizing my towel, folding my towel and folding the sweatshirt, and him just saying, "Cadet Yum, this is folded imperfectly. And just comments like that is what I remember. But every once in a while, even with Terry, he would give you a word of praise, and he'd be like, Cadet Yim, this is good. But here is an example of keeping Terry's memory alive. He is physically gone, but even immediately after his notice of his passing, classmates of his and classmates of mine, we all would get together and we immediately started trading stories about him. And when we do this, even though he's physically gone, we keep his memory alive, and with that, he is still alive. And as you head into this weekend, this is exactly what you have been working to do. And so, specifically when an event like this, like One Day for the KIA, you are keeping the memory of those who have passed in the past alive. For me, some big ones that come to my mind are like Colonel Francis J. McGoldrick, whose daughter Mari is on the 1DK board. But I still very much remember her telling me stories about hearing that he had gone to Vietnam and how she would keep up with kind of his status just by watching the news reports at night. And at night, they would run the names of all those who had been declared missing in action, prisoner of war, killed in action. And her and her siblings would stare at the TV, just waiting for, just hoping not to see his name, and then simultaneously hoping for him to come home. I also remember stories of like Major Ray Mendoza, whose wife Karen, surviving wife Karen, was so instrumental actually to giving us guidance as we set up One Day for the KIA. And for both of those individuals, I'd never actually met them, but I feel like I know them quite well just by how much that their families members would talk about them and share stories and keep their memories alive by talking about them with us. So as you head into this weekend, you are keeping alive and commemorating those who have gone before us, but you are also doing this for those who will inevitably pass in the future. And some of those folks might be people who you're sitting next to right now, sitting next to in your ROTC class, or doing PT with in the French Fieldhouse or wherever it happens now. But I want you to just know that what you do matters, not for the semantic portion, but also for the overall objective and portion of the fact that you are providing a support for this overall team that we are part of together. But anyways, I just want to say thank you for doing this, putting on this event that is a colossal amount of work on top of everything that you're already doing of school, ROTC, your part-time job. But I will tell you that it is worth it. And I'm sorry that I can't make it this weekend. I was in town last weekend hoping to make it to the dates last weekend, but I wish you the best, and please let me know what I can do for you, both 1DK wise or just Air Force wise or anything wise. Thank you, and talk to you soon.